nothing is impossible now. I see it with my own eyes, and the blogging universe is ever so changing. That my goal in life now is not simply to blog, it is to be that resource that we talked about early on when we started. How can we be the top resource for everything Mediterranean cooking and the Mediterranean lifestyle? So there's the recipes, there is the products, and we don't know what else is coming. We shall see.
That was Suzy Karadsheh, and this is episode number 189 of the Chopped Podcast. Hey there, how are you doing today? Thanks for joining me. I am Marley McMillan. I am with the blog Namely Marley, and I am your host of the Chopped Podcast, where we are talking about all things food blogging. I wanted to start today's episode with a little update from a comment I made earlier this year. As you know, I was working hard to get my rating bumped up in tennis. And, I use tennis as an analogy for food blogging a lot because I feel like there's a lot of similarities. But anyway, I was working to get my rating to the next level. And I just thought I would give you this information that the updates came out. And guess what? I did not get updated. I am still at the same level. And I used that as an opportunity to feel pretty down about myself for a little bit. And I wanted to share with you this experience just to kind of give you an idea of how mindset can make a difference. Because before in my life, a situation like this would have had me feeling down and out for days. So instead, I felt down and out for maybe hours, maybe minutes. It was probably a couple hours by the time it was all said and done. I felt pretty bad. I felt kind of upset, disappointed for sure, and also a little down on myself, like, what a loser I am and how stupid it was that I even had this goal in the first place. Why even bother trying? All of those things. Maybe you might have said these things in your mind to yourself as well. I'm not going to jump to any conclusions. I just know that this is how I am. And I certainly have read that a lot of people are pretty hard on themselves. So interestingly enough, I feel like this is a reflection of my own internal wiring. That in other words, as much as I might want to put on a happy face or feel genuinely like I have a happy face going on, that internal hard wiring is kind of running the show. And I'm sure you've heard this before. I'm not saying anything new here. It's just like moments like that kind of reveal it. And so the revelation in front of me was, I'm not worth it. I'm stupid. I'm, all of those things, I can't do this, all of that. But I was really proud of myself in this regard because, as you know, I've been working a lot on mindset lately, and I let myself feel that way for a while. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, seemingly, a new thought came into my mind, like, hey, I get another year of pursuing a goal. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like the pursuit of a thing and the achievement of it, the pursuit can actually be a little bit more fun. I mean, of course, it's fun to achieve goals, right? But it's sometimes after you achieve the goal, there's a little bit of a letdown. And now I get another year of getting to pursue that goal. And when I think about this past year, I was kind of hot on the pursuit of it the last 6 months. But the first 6 months I wasn't. And so, that had a big impact on the rating, I'm sure. And so now I get a whole year of getting to stay focused on improving my game, practicing hard and applying that practice in matches. And then another thing that came to my mind is like, I'm on two teams, one at the level I'm at and one on the level above me. And the team on the level that I'm at has the opportunity to go to sectionals this year. And if we win sectionals, then we could go to nationals. And I don't feel like I would have that opportunity on the level higher. So the only way I got to play on that current level is the fact that I didn't get bumped up. So I know this is kind of like looking for a silver lining, but in some ways it inspired me because that is another goal of mine, which would be how fun would it be to go to nationals some year. So in some ways I feel like this may be my biggest opportunity. I also just feel like I'm a person in pursuit of a goal, and that goal is important to me. And I don't know, I feel like it's not about if, it's really more about when. And for some reason that kind of let me feel some confidence in myself, I guess I would say. I don't know if you've read the book, The Confidence Code. It's by Katty Kay and Claire Shipman. And they suggest that you can work on things like what they call NATs. Negative automatic thinking is what I think they refer to that, something like that. NATs, negative automatic thinking, these negative thoughts that go on in the background all the time, and you're not even aware of them. Changing those can have a huge impact on your life and increase your confidence in yourself. So I felt like this was an example of that in action. Another thing that really stuck out for me for that book was that they would actually say to yourself things like, I am confident, and put your hands in a fist when you say that. And I definitely feel like right now I feel really confident. Isn't that funny? In the face of not achieving a goal, I feel really confident. I don't know. I'm really proud of myself because this is a big achievement. Like I say, in the past, something like this would have had me feeling down for a while, and it really only lasted a short while for me this time. And so I feel really good. I just wanted to give you this story as an example of mindset and the impact that it can have on you, because, when we have big goals, we don't want to let, these gnats, the negative automatic thinking, or, maybe some short-term setback get in the way of the goal that we have. And that can definitely happen. So I don't know. I hope you feel inspired by this story as well. And I'll keep you updated on how things go this year. But hopefully next year, this time, I'll come at you with a different story. But anyway, talking about mindset, wait till you listen into today's discussion with Suzy Karadsheh. She's with the site The Mediterranean Dish. And Suzy shares so much about building her blog into a successful business. I was just so inspired by her story. I love the fact that basically her husband bought the domain name for her, and he kind of had the vision for her before she even had it. But then once she was on the same page and saw the opportunities there, she was very inspired and moved forward with great passion. She talks about several things that were really key in helping her site grow into the successful blog that it is today. And the ones that really stuck out to me that she talked about were authenticity, consistency, and focus. Regarding consistency, Suzy said she found the biggest impact on her traffic when she was committed to a consistent posting schedule. And then regarding authenticity, she talked about how lucky she was to be, have this site that was very reflective of how she lives her life, because she eats Mediterranean all the time and lives her life in a way that's reflective of the Mediterranean lifestyle. And so that really shows through in her Instagram account and in her blog, and, just the videos that she's sharing, all of that stuff. And then finally, she talked about focus. And I really loved the things that she had to say here, because it's really easy to get distracted by that. I call it the shiny red button syndrome, where, the latest shiny red button comes along and we all want to go and push it. Like, everybody's talking about this particular ingredient and we all feel like we have to have a recipe with that. And Suzy mentions that she felt that same pressure as well, but she felt the best when she stayed true to her niche. And that involved sticking with the content she knew that was relevant to her readers and relevant to her niche. I loved that. But to me, the most exciting thing we talked about is that Suzy has launched physical products for her brand. I love how she talks about her commitment to providing helpful resources for her audience. In other words, she wanted to be the go-to resource for all things Mediterranean. And for her, that meant branding things like organic family-owned olive oil and spices and things like that. That may not be the case for you. You may not think that you're going to be launching a physical product, and that's fine. But I loved hearing her talk about it and how it came together for her. And even if you're not going to be launching a physical product, you can still get a lot out of today's discussion, because I think you'll feel so inspired by listening to Suzy talk about the hard work that she's put into achieving a highly successful site. So let's get straight to it. Here's today's featured discussion with Suzy Karadsheh. Hey everyone, I'm happy to have on the show today Suzy Karadsheh. She's of the site The Mediterranean Dish. Suzy, welcome to the Chop Podcast.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you on the show. I love Mediterranean food, and so just the whole theme of your blog just is exciting.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, thank you. I am pumped to be here chatting with you. I've listened to this podcast for a long time, and it's just always so helpful to hear from everybody else in the industry, and I'm just excited to take part.
Yes, it's really cool. I just seemed like I see Mediterranean style of cooking in the news a lot lately. Do you notice that too?
Yes. Yeah, it's a thing. I'm excited
Yes.
for that. Well, actually, it's more recently, earlier this year, like January when the U.S. News and World Report came out with the Mediterranean diet being number one,
Oh,
beating about 40 some other diets. It kind of just, at that point, my site kind of flooded
I
with people.
bet.
And I'm like, wait a minute, like Mediterranean food is not that trendy. It's been here for like thousands of years.
Yes.
But I think just more recently, the whole diet aspect of Mediterranean cooking kind of took over
Yes.
in the past year, especially. But it's been around for a while. So, but
And
hey, I'll take it. I'm
yeah,
excited.
exactly. Come on, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, one thing I really love about your site and following you on Instagram and things is that you really, I feel like you embody it as a lifestyle, and obviously you do because you grew up there. So it's like, it's just
Yes,
part of who you are. And I love how
right.
you set that out there as an example. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it just makes sense to blog about something I know so well. So I grew up in Egypt on the shores of the Mediterranean. This is all I ate, and the city that I lived in, that I grew up in, was kind of attached to all the other Mediterranean places so closely, like a couple hours away from like Greece and Italy and Israel. And so boatloads of people from those different cultures would kind of land where I lived, and the food was just kind of shared. So I grew up with that, and to me, that's just kind of, if you're looking to find yourself a niche or a niche, kind of look close to home, I suppose, and
Yes.
go with what you know most, and that kind of set the tone for my blog. And I just love sharing about the foods I grew up with, and making them more my own too, because if you're talking like really traditional Mediterranean cooking, some of it can be very, very difficult, or it just takes a little more time than we have these days. So my style
Oh.
of cooking is more relaxed and quick, and kind of more modern Mediterranean cooking for everybody. Anybody can make it.
Yes,
So.
or could it be also that some of the ingredients are harder to find too,
Um,
or not?
No, yeah, you know what? The thing about Mediterranean food is that the Mediterranean diet in general uses very, very affordable ingredients that are available most anywhere. Maybe some of the spices weren't
Oh,
always available in the stores and whatnot, but if you think about it, it's really a vegetarian, a very heavy plant base. It's very heavy on plant, veggies, fruits, and beans and legumes, and then the next tier above that, you have your grains, and then you do some fish, and it's all of that is available. So
yes.
it's maybe just kind of putting it together sometimes can be intimidating. So that's what I try to help people out with that part. So.
Well, you do a wonderful job, and I would love to just actually start with asking you what is it that inspired you to start your blog?
Um, so this was about just over 5 years ago or so. I had a career in fundraising and marketing for many years, and then I had to quit that, and we started moving from place to place just for following my husband's career, and we ended up in Des Moines, Iowa, of all places, and we loved it there. But we ended up there, and I had a small child at that time, and I just could not latch on to a brand new job again. And so my husband was like, hey, why don't you just, not worry about it, stay home, and so forth. And so we decided that I wasn't going to pursue anything, full time at that point. And then I got really bored and
Yeah.
almost depressed, to be honest. It was a very low point for me that I could not just get up and go somewhere and do a job. I was just home with a baby. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just, I discovered was not 100% for me to just
Yeah.
be home and not be doing something more. And so cooking was kind of my outlet. I began to just like do a lot more with cooking, and really got excited about my heritage at the time and started to build recipes of my own. And then people would ask about them, and people are always excited to be invited for my Mediterranean food and whatnot. And so I'm like, hey, maybe we have something going
Yes.
on here. And so my husband actually had happened on this whole idea of like online work and blogging, and he started the website for me. He's like, hey, you have a job now. It's called the Mediterranean Dish. Here
Wow.
is your site. He invested all but like $20 to start the site for me, and I was like, okay, I'll take it. It's a gift.
Yes.
And he had honestly more of the vision for it than I did at the time. I just was so at a low point. I needed something,
Oh,
some lifeline to the outside world,
yes.
because I came from such an intense, and I think you probably appreciate this too, like having had a career before. And
Yes.
I came from an intense, like always out there on the go, like in PR and whatever, traveling, and then now I'm just home all
Yes.
the time. So I started blogging, and it was very infrequent. It was very, very much a hobby, a place for me to be, and it was that way for a couple, 3 years, maybe. It wasn't until 2016, late 2016, that it actually became something of a job for me. And I was like, hey, you know what? Some people are reading my blog other than my mom. And my mom would look and approve the recipes, and she's like, yep, that's good. But in 2016, in the fall, I decided that this was now our second move, and we landed in Atlanta, Georgia. And I thought to myself, there's no way I'm going back to work now. Um, so I better make something of this blog. And I started to be more consistent with it. And it takes a lot of time and patience. And
Yes.
I'm still trying to refine that path yet. But that's when it really became the Mediterranean dishes, late 2016. So that's the whole story.
There's so much to unpack there. Like I just want to tell you that I felt the same way when I was staying at home with my daughter. I loved it in so many ways, and yet there's just something that feels just it's just hard to feel inspired every single day by, wiping noses and things like that. And I ended
No
up going to
kidding.
graduate school, and that really helped me.
Oh, okay, that's great.
Yes.
That is awesome.
But I love
Um,
that your husband, he's kind of surprised you with this website domain name.
yeah, he had been listening to podcasts, and happened upon some of the leading bloggers out there, and he's like, hey, let's check out these people's websites. So we check it out, and we learn a little bit about who they are, and we were like, hey, that's kind of cool. So he actually said, hey, would you like to start a food blog? And I'm like, what is that? And what does that entail? And whatever. So he dug into it some more. And then he's like, okay, well, if it's going to be a food blog, it's got to be about something you know. And we started talking about the things that I can cook and the things that I can talk about authentically, because that was a big deal to me.
Right.
When he said the food blog, I started looking at what food blogs looked like, and there was so many already at the time, and I thought, how do you? I mean, what more can I add, right? I thought there was enough out there
Yes.
already. So he's like, don't take it so seriously. Like it could just be your hobby, but also he had the vision for it to be the leading, online resource for Mediterranean cooking and the Mediterranean lifestyle. So we then went after the name, the Mediterranean dish, um, because we just felt that we needed to communicate off the bat what this blog is about.
Oh,
Otherwise, how we thought that maybe we couldn't talk about all foods out there. We could only talk
right.
about Mediterranean food.
Yes.
And I thought, it's not a cute name. It wasn't anything funny, but it communicated exactly what this blog is about, and who I am in just those three words, the Mediterranean dish. So that's how it came about.
Oh, I just love that story so much. I think that's so, we having somebody who believes in you and maybe even sees the vision before you do is it's very nice, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And he's always seen the blog for more than it was at the time.
Yes.
And I think he's a big part of the reason that I'm still here because, as you know, it's really hard
Yeah.
to get something started and to actually keep going and to keep showing up every day.
Right. It's one thing, you talk about your career and when you're going and showing up to work every day and you're doing a job for somebody else, that's a whole different set of motivations than it is when you're doing it for yourself.
Absolutely. I have to agree. Like to get up every day and show up and you're thinking, who else is reading this? I know my mom's already read the last post, you
Yes.
know? So yeah, that's the story. I'm so grateful for his support, truly.
Do you feel like there were some things, some skills that you brought from your previous career that helped you as a food blogger?
Yeah, so I think so. I did a bit of writing. I did a bit of event planning and entertaining and just working in communications in general. All of that kind of translated into what I do today, like kind of coming up with your message. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to communicate about the blog in general, but this particular recipe? Uh, Photography was not something I I brought into it. I
Yeah.
had to learn it on the go. I think most of us are that way, but probably more of the communications and marketing piece was something that I had developed earlier and just kind of brought it with me, and it evolved from there.
Yeah, and I imagine the work ethic that you developed, probably for your career helped a lot as a food blogger too.
Yeah, it did. And at times it was just kind of it was there. Like I knew how to work, so like get
Yes.
up and work.
Yes,
I've
just
done
do it.
this before. I had a job before,
Yeah.
where I woke up early and went to work early. So this should not be a problem, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so definitely like just some of the get up and do it. Um, I had to kind of pull back from earlier days sometimes.
Yes. The one thing I kind of miss, it sounds so bizarre because I think when we're in the middle of working at an office situation, we always have a tendency to complain about the meetings. But I find myself
Oh,
now, I would love to sit around a table with a bunch of experts or people who know what they're talking about and chat about the things that I'm doing. And, is this the best direction or how do we move this? Or yeah, it would be awesome.
I so agree. Like that collaborative piece
Yes.
can really be missing. Like having a few people to like brainstorm with and
Yes.
kind of like come up with. Usually, the end result is much bigger than one person, and I miss that. But I have it a bit in my husband now, who just joined me full time on the business. So we do a bit of that together, and it's helped a lot.
So he saw the vision so much so that now he's working with you
That
now.
Yeah, he comes from insurance. His background is in
Ah,
is in mathematics.
nice.
So he did a lot of like pricing and product management, and he quit his VP position to just oversee the business stuff that I don't like to
Wow.
do. And I tell you what, though, it was a big leap of faith. This is only a few months now together. Um, and this, I feel, is another big transition that maybe other people had gone through as well, but you don't realize um, how much worry comes with
Yeah.
investing everything in the one big project and doing it together all the time. But at the same time, it is what I needed to kind of move on to that next chapter with this project. We call the Mediterranean dish. So it's a leap of faith, and we're in it now, 100%. There's no
Literally.
going back. There's no going back. Now it really has to work, and it's nerve wracking, but at the same time super exciting
But
because.
Any job can be nerve-wracking because you could be at a perfectly comfortable job and there could be rumors of a layoff, or there's
Oh,
no
yeah.
certainty anymore.
There is not at all. And my husband is blessed with a lot of business sense, and uh, because of his background, and he's got a finance mind that I don't. And he's really taken off all that pressure that I was feeling, because now I can just create. Now I can do the creative part, and
Nice.
someone else will take care of the business part.
Yes.
So we're in this together 100% now, and it's a new exciting chapter, and I'm thrilled to have his help on this, of course, because we have other aspects of the business beyond blogging now that I can't take care of. So
Right. And just before we get to that, I'm looking forward to talking with you about that part too. But I imagine then, he's a finance guy, so you have to have some pretty good numbers on the book before he's going to quit his job and join you, right?
that is correct. So no, we've had a great, since I would say things really uh, took off for the blog for sure in 2018. At that point, it was a full-blown business. I was consistently showing up. Um, I was getting paid. And I mean, for some people, it might take longer. For some people, they can do it very quickly. For me, it took a few years to get to that point of like consistently showing up, consistently planning, editorial calendar, all that big stuff. And then, of course, that translated into income. And so for the past couple of years, since early 2018, it was something that then planted the seed for him to start thinking, okay, this business is working. And he was starting to think of like, where can we branch out into, and how he can participate in growing this beyond just the food blog,
Yes.
and heading toward that big resource that we had talked about 5 years ago.
Yes.
um,
I love it.
yeah. So,
So what
yeah.
what do you think was the big difference between 2016 and 2018? What do you think were the things that you focused on that really helped grow your site?
I really, first of all, I would say consistency. Like, this is not a hobby anymore. Like, you needed to blog every, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a week. So consistency in producing content for people. I started also focusing a little bit on email marketing, and started to build my list to a really healthy number of people who showed up all the time, who were kind of my tribe. I worked on building my tribe, was kind of the second thing that I did. I started really showing up on social media. Like the blog, when it started in 2016, I did not do anything with social media for a couple of years.
Mm.
I wasn't showing up very much for that part of it, because I wasn't thinking of it as a business. But
Yes.
eventually I did. And I started thinking about where my audience is and how to meet them there. Uh, so producing the content, building the email list, and I started learning a little bit of SEO as well. So that was important, how to really show up in Google search. And um, I really started honing my voice, if I were honest with you. I started really to hone my voice and to not waver on the whole Mediterranean thing, because it's really easy for one to sit here and watch what other bloggers are producing
Yeah.
and all the trendy foods and whatnot, but that really didn't fit who I am, and it didn't fit the particular niche that I was going for, and it wasn't serving my audience. So it wasn't until I started to like really focus on, okay, what am I cooking next? Does this serve my audience? Is this within my focus? I was more and more deliberate on that. So from the late part of 2016 through early 2018, that was kind of a journey to
Yes.
kind of finding that voice, to hone it, to find the tribe, like meaning the people that are interested in this particular kind of food. And uh, And then I also kind of added a little bit more content around the diet itself and the lifestyle beyond the food. So I would kind of write from my perspective as somebody who grew up on this diet, what that really looked like, because there's a lot of information out there.
Yeah.
And I was very committed to telling people the truth, the truth about this way of eating. I don't even like to call it diet, but this way of eating. And I just started, I feel like at some point, something just clicked in my head about what content people were needing most. And I started to cater to that. Uh, and I started to cater that because I cared about
Yes.
these people. And I would hear from them. Like they would write me emails about this particular article changed my life.
Oh,
I have been eating this food for a while. And so I think once I found my people, so to speak, and knew that I was serving them, it helped me kind of stay the course, if you will, and just really focus on running my own race. Because I feel like in blogging, it's so competitive
yeah.
and it is so easy to get caught up in the comparison trap of what somebody else is producing or what kind of fun projects they got to do, or what sponsorship opportunities or what travel opportunities, and kind of lose track maybe of the vision and the mission of your own blog. And so I just kind of put some blinders on, like, to everything outside, and really honed in on my own voice and my own purpose. And that was for these particular people, because the challenge of having a niche, and I don't know if others out there might have one, or they might be a general blog, but the challenge for me is I couldn't just get up and talk about tacos,
Yeah.
right? That wouldn't work.
Yes.
Nobody would make my tacos, I'm pretty sure, because they would not taste good. But to just stick the course, and even though you're not going to grab everybody, I have maybe a much smaller part of the pie. I'm targeting a smaller group, but they're my people, they're
Yes.
my tribe, and they'll come back because they want this particular food. So that, for me, really was the transformation. It's just going on that journey of, like, focus, 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 and niche, niche, niche. Like, do not do not do something that you're not built for, and do not do something that is not what your audience is looking for.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's kind of the
I
journey.
love that because I definitely feel that as well. Like it's so easy when you see like some soft tacos or just, everybody's getting all kinds of traffic from soft tacos, and it's so tempting to want to rush off and do that. But you were just like, I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to stay true to my audience. And that's paid off in the end.
Yes, it has. Honestly, like, I'm not gonna be probably ever the biggest blog out there because I'm targeting a specific group of people, but they're my people. I'm
Yes.
really proud of them.
Right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. And in fact, a great opportunity has come your way as a result of your blog. So let's talk about that because you've actually moved into having a physical product that's pretty
Yes.
exciting.
Yeah, so just going back to listening to your audience, the whole reason that I ever launched my own product line, which we now have, we import Greek extra virgin olive oils, and we have a natural, all natural organic spice collection, and a couple of other things are coming yet. The whole reason this whole thing started is because people kept emailing me and asking me to talk to them about the olive oils I use. Where do I find my spices? How do they know that they're good spices? Where do they go for this or that? And I started kind of listening to where the need was.
Mm.
And I brought it to my husband. I said, listen, this is like the fifth email that we got about olive oils. And I can't fully stand behind some of the stuff that's on the shelves these days. And so through the course of just listening to them, and I started digging into suppliers out there. I started asking for samples for the spices and all of that. And uh, just through chance, really, I did happen upon somebody whose family owns olive groves in Greece.
Mm.
And she kind of partnered with us in bringing the olive oils. We have a co-packer who takes care of all that. So we don't touch the products ourselves. We're not qualified, but they come and they're packed and they're labeled, and we now sell them online through the Mediterranean Dish.
Wow.
So this was, I want to say, later in 2018. Um, or maybe like the whole conversation might have started sometime in 2017. I might be getting my my years confused, but when we launched it, it's about a year and a half old as far as like having been able to offer it on our site, and it was a very slow start. And we kind of started like a beta situation. We're not sure we're going to carry this forever. We don't know. So we started with that. I simply sent some emails out and said, listen, people, you've been asking for this stuff. I have it for you. And I started talking about it. I started talking about our suppliers, how we came about this olive oil, what they can expect from the products. And we honestly were just sitting there going, well, we don't know
Right.
how well this will do. Well, right now, this is our second year now, and we are expanding our product offerings.
Wow.
Stuff is flying off the shelves. We don't ever keep a big inventory, um, just because we don't want things to be stale. So we always kind
Yes.
of package to order almost.
Yes.
We're just frequently asking for more spices, and our suppliers are like, well, you could make a larger order now, people. We're like, we know, but we like it fresh, kind of
Our
thing.
audience
So
likes it fresh. Yeah.
yeah, but there were some spices like za'atar and sumac and ras el hanout, which is Moroccan, and some other things that I like to use in my cooking that aren't so quickly available to people. And so we really started it more as a service to our tribe, and it took off.
Ah,
So yeah, so that's kind of the part that my husband really manages more than I do. I don't really touch that side of the business, the e-commerce side, and he's now investigating other opportunities also within Mediterranean ingredients, like lentils and grains and tahini and things very
yes.
specific to our niche, right? So when you have the blessing of like the people telling you what to do,
Yes.
it's easy,
It takes some of the
right?
risk out, doesn't it?
It
Yes.
does, because they kept asking and asking and asking, and I said, okay, let me do some
Well,
investigating.
and maybe it
And
helped you to live in Des Moines, Iowa for a while, where you realized that it's not always easy to find good olive oil in Des Moines, Iowa.
mm, that's
You
correct.
know?
It's a lot easier in Atlanta,
Yes.
Georgia.
Be-
but
Because you probably know
but
the
I
shops to
mean,
go to find it, right?
absolutely. I believe in seasons. Our lives change all the time, and I think that Des Moines, Iowa, was a great season for me
Oh,
to kind of find myself in a different career.
yes.
And then here we are in Atlanta, Georgia, where we're thriving as really a much bigger business than we thought we would be with this blog, and we just can't wait to see what comes next. But I think for us bloggers in general, it's really hard to keep the focus
Yeah,
sometimes, and I just have to stay the course, so to speak.
exactly. So are these products that you're selling, do they actually have your name on the label?
Yes,
Wow.
so far they do, the Mediterranean dish. So we may invest in having other brands that I believe in be a part of our shop. That's not a problem. It just so happened that the first opportunity for spices and olive oils just came with the
Yes.
label, and we took it, and products that we stand
Yes.
behind. 100%, and we know where they come from. We know that there isn't anything added. We know the whole process. The people who do our olive oils, I mean, one time we kind of ran out, and I called my person. I said, "Hey, we need more olive oil." She's like, "Well, hey, you gotta wait for the harvest, remember?" Like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
right. You're not just some grocer who's going to, run
Over the
over some
shelves.
olive oil.
Yeah.
You're actually waiting for the harvest. Well, that's a concept, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, so there's a process behind these products, and I'm so like, I want to say proud, but I don't want to sound conceited about it.
No, it's great.
But I'm so proud to be able to offer something that I believe in
Yes.
to the people who trusted me with their time and their
I
money.
I am a
So,
big believer too in spending your money in a way like your dollar is a vote. And if you're probably
right.
supporting a smaller farmer instead of one of these great big huge farmers that don't care about the environment, don't care about harvest or things like that. I think that's really important.
Yes. Yes, so these olive groves, they're all the way in Greece.
Yes.
The families have been working there 100 years, different generations. They still handpick the olives. They still only use the one olive and not a blend.
Yes.
Everything is cold pressed.
That's
We
nice.
have the early harvest, which is like pressed earlier on in the process while the olives are still green. And so it's vivid and
Oh,
delicious and just everything good for your body. And so why not offer that,
right.
and it just, so that's where we started. We are looking at other olive oils now from other parts of the Mediterranean. And we're looking at
How
lentils
about balsamic
and some
vinegar?
of
Is that
those.
on your list?
What, you know what? It will, now that you mention
I'm just telling you,
it.
it's so scary for me to buy a bottle of balsamic vinegar because I feel like I don't know it can be really bad.
Oh, it
Yes.
could. It could go. It could go quickly bad on you.
Yes.
I think that nothing is impossible now. I see it with my own eyes, and the blogging universe is ever so changing. That my goal in life now is not simply to blog; it is to be that resource that we talked about early on when we started. How can we be the top resource for everything Mediterranean cooking and the Mediterranean lifestyle? So there's the recipes, there is the products, and we don't know what else is coming. We shall see.
Stay tuned for the next chapter, right? Like,
we hope it will be a good chapter, and we don't take it for granted. It's a hard journey
yes.
to travel. Blogging is, and I know that a lot of people who might listen are maybe just starting out, and I hope that this story is just only to encourage everybody that stay the course,
Because you
basically.
never know what's on the next page, right? It's so, I mean, who would have guessed that this would be in your future? Your husband's working with you and that you're
Yeah,
launching your own product.
yeah. I never thought he would leave something he loved so
Oh,
much, and a high position, and a stable job,
yes.
to join me to do this stuff. And every day I ask him, "Are you sure? Are you sure you want to do this with me?" And he's like, "You gotta quit asking me this question. It's so annoying
Oh, it
now."
was cute at first, but now let's move on.
Yeah, he's like, "Now I'm really annoyed. Now I feel like you want me out of the house." I'm like, "No, no, no, that's not
I love
it."
it.
Yeah, no, that's not it.
Do you ever
So
see your products on the store shelves or do you just intend to only have it online?
we have not thought that far at this point in time.
Yes.
But if it ever does, I'll be grateful for that as well. Right now, we're trying to serve our online audience
Yes.
first. We're always open to partnerships. We hear from different places, different brands that want to work with us. And of course, it's not the only thing we're working on right now. So I really have no idea. I have learned to take it one step at a time. I used to be very frantic about, like, when Google makes a small change, and my just like they did last week, and you lose some
Yes.
traffic or you gain some traffic. What You can't depend on external factors as much now, be it Google or social media or whatever. So You have to find your own project and invest and see where it goes. So we
Yeah.
shall
So in other
see.
words, if all your blog is focused just around the one thing, which is traffic,
Hmm.
you're very vulnerable, and it's scary. But you're expanding to include more baskets in your revenue stream, so that's amazing.
That's our hope. That's what we're looking to do. But you never know. Traffic is very important. I don't want anyone to misread me on that one
Yes.
because I do a lot of work on SEO to make sure that I do show up on Google. But things change all the time. So,
Yes. I was going to ask you, when it comes to the blog itself, and you're talking about SEO, and I'm sure that probably involves updating a lot of old content,
yes.
do you do all that all on yourself, or do you ever have like an assistant that you have that helps you?
So I don't have anybody at this point in time. I've been working on updating a lot of old content because when you start
I feel
something
you.
as a hobby, you're not worried about, all these things. You just
Yes.
put a recipe out there and you go, here you go, people, eat it. But so I have a lot of old content that really does need to be fleshed out and kind of thought through and rewritten in a way that would be SEO compliant, but I never want to focus on SEO to the point that my content is just no longer friendly. So I haven't given that piece up to anybody else. I've been doing it myself so far, but I am looking to hire some help with it in the near future, only
Yeah.
because I am only able to produce like 3 or 4 recipes per week. I cannot do anything more. And
Yes.
I would much rather be on the creative side of things and do more of the strategic pieces. So if it comes down to hiring and training someone, I'm willing to do that at some point in time, one step at a time.
Yes, one step at a time. That's a great way of looking at it. And when you say 3 to 4 posts a week, it's always new content, or sometimes are you publishing old content?
No, so we've had an SEO audit not too long ago, and we got hit quite a bit in the last Google update in June. I don't know if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, was it June or April? Anyway, they do so many of these, so
Yes.
we got hit. I think in the June update pretty bad. And that was an indication that there were some things missing on our site. And we had an audit, and we were just going through all the technical pieces first, our site speed and all the behind the scenes things that were bogging down the blog. And then I came to the content piece and kind of like started looking through all the old pieces. And so right now I'm still really updating a lot of my old content. I probably do 2 or 3 older posts and one new recipe every week. Um, so sometimes it's too new, too old, whatever, depending on the week. So,
Yes.
depending on what's going on. But I do, and I will admit this, if it just in the interest of being fully vulnerable here, I do get very anxious just knowing that I could be producing more content and I'm not.
Yes. Yeah.
I do worry about that. I do uh, occasionally compare myself and go, oh, people are producing 6 or 7 blog posts a week and they're all brand new. How do they do that? Right?
How do they do that? Yes.
And you sit there and you think I'm not productive, and I start this whole big process of like I need to be
Yes.
more productive. But in all reality, if I want to produce a blog post that is well written, that is helpful, that has step photos to help people make the recipe and all that, it does take time.
Yes.
And I just have not had the capacity to do more than I am doing. So 50% old content being renewed and refreshed, and 50% brand new content.
Oh, that's great. And it's amazing. I also just wanted to tell you that another thing I mentioned this earlier, that I love about your site and your social media is that there is this presence of you on, like, you've got a blog video on your about page that is you talking about the food and showing you at the farmer's market. And
Hmm.
I felt like immediately connected with you. I think it's I think it's wonderful that you do that.
Yeah, we video has been a new thing for me. Thank you for bringing that.
Ah,
I love it actually. I have found my calling, Marley.
you're good.
I
Yes.
love being on video. I think probably because I don't have to sit there and write, I can just tell you everything I need to tell you about this
Yes.
recipe in just, 5 minutes, like two friends. And I didn't know that I would actually do well with video. So the reason I do videos now is not even for SEO purposes, but for the fact that I enjoy them. So uh, yeah, so we've moved from the hands and pans video model that most people are doing to just having me on camera talking about the food and just cooking and having a good time. And those are a lot of work, I have to admit,
Yes.
but they are my joy because I really do feel that I connect with people.
I was going to ask you, yeah, does it resonate with your audience, the having you in the video?
It does. Yeah. So when we do these videos, we shoot about 8 videos per day.
Oh
Um,
my
yeah,
goodness.
it's very, very intense. I will tell you that.
Wow.
And we have a film crew, so we've had to invest some money. And I'm sharing the process with people because it's probably not for everybody, and there are, like everything in blogging, there are things that you want to focus on and things you don't want to focus on because
Yes.
it may be more of an investment than you're ready for today, or it may be just not your jam, so to speak.
Right.
And I'm doing video because I found my jam. And when we do these, it's a big investment of time. Like, I prepare for the videos a couple days in advance. I'm prepping all this food. I'm preparing my head for what needs to be said. I might even go through and cook some of the recipes a couple times just to kind of have the flow in my
Yes.
head, because we go through, we don't stop, we don't, I can't, once something is in the pan, I can't take it off. It's in there.
Yes.
So I have to do it right. And so when we do produce these 8 episodes per day or whatever, then I have them for the rest of the month and I'm able to share them with my audience. And I share them through social media and I share them through my email list. And I always hear from people, like, they always email me, I just cannot believe you haven't been doing these forever. I love seeing you.
Oh,
And it has really translated more into, okay, there's a human being behind the side the Mediterranean dish. And I know what she
yes.
looks like. I know that she has a funny accent. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
it actually played more into my personal brand than I ever thought it would. Um,
Oh, I love that. Now, when
so,
you say you do recipes a day, 8 videos, is
mhm.
that you do that one day a month though?
Yeah, I don't do it. Yeah, I can't do it
I
more than
see.
that. I think I do it once every 6 weeks now.
I see.
And
Okay.
then I obviously schedule those when I have them back from the editor, uh, just kind of throughout the month or the next 6 weeks. So just one video per week. We don't own our own studio or anything, and we don't hire full-time people. So that's the best scenario that we can come up with, is to just do it once every
Oh,
six
right.
weeks.
And
Yeah,
I'm just curious. This is just like, woman to woman here, right? Do you
sure.
change outfits in between each
I do.
recipe? What a
I
fun
do.
day to
So
get to wear eight
yeah,
different outfits.
yeah, and I have 5 minutes to change.
Oh my God. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
the
fast.
guys are really like, "Hey, we gotta get out of here." Like,
Yes.
so what
You got to
I
have those
do,
outfits lined up.
yeah, so what I do is I wear one pair of jeans, Marley, and
I
I
see.
change my shirt. And
Oh,
that's
that's
what I do.
perfect.
I just keep it very simple. I never try anything brand new on that day because you never know. I
Yes.
never do my hair weird, or I just look like a normal person in her kitchen. And we keep it simple and quick. So yeah, we just go through these videos and they're edited different ways so that they fit the different social whatever, like square for Facebook, you know,
Yes.
long or whatever, skinny for IGTV, that kind of thing.
Yes.
So
Do you put these on? Do you have like a YouTube channel as well then?
yeah, so we're brand new to YouTube,
Ah,
but it is a new focus for us. I think we only have like 3,000 subscribers or something small like that. But um, I think that YouTube is helpful. I think that the audience on YouTube is kind of a different audience.
yeah.
And we're trying to figure out what they want and what they need. And long form videos like I'm doing now will work much better than the hands and pans. So we started putting them
Yes.
out there. And again, it takes consistency and like making sure if you're going to do a video channel, you're going to actually post new videos every week. You can't just post once
Yes.
and then like sit on it, which I didn't
Right.
realize. So now I actually, my husband kind of makes sure that I'm on top of my schedule that
Oh,
I have something
nice.
to go out on Sunday mornings. So yeah, I think YouTube can be really fun. We're just investigating it right now, and it's one
Yeah.
more place to see what's possible.
You know what I'm hearing, Susie, is that you kind of had this experimental mindset because you would not have even discovered that you liked video if you had not tried it. So it's great that you just let yourself try that.
Yeah, absolutely. I learned early on that you cannot get married to an idea right away. You have to try it. You have to
Yes.
see how it goes. Like early on in blogging, I sometimes would post recipes that weren't Mediterranean. And I wrestled with that a little bit. And I thought to myself, but my name is the Mediterranean dish. Like I
Yes.
gotta. So I quit trying those things that weren't working for me, you know,
Mm.
and stuck with what works. So everything
Mm.
that we try, I think I am very pessimistic. I will just admit that. I never do something feeling like, 100%, I'm gonna go viral. I never have that feeling about anything. Honestly, I just kind of feel like, you know what? I'm gonna show up for this idea today and I'm gonna make it happen. And then we're gonna test it out. We're gonna see if it's for us or not. If I had
Yeah.
discovered this style of video was not for me, I probably couldn't go on with it because it would not feel authentic. And
Yes.
I think people can pick up on that pretty quickly, the whole
Yep.
authenticity piece. And I think you talk about that quite a bit.
Yes.
And I think it's true.
I think if you're doing something just because it's what everybody else is doing, I mean, I think you can do it for a little while, but I don't think you'll stick with it. It's too hard.
Right. Yeah. If
Yeah.
something is not fitting,
Yes.
you can't keep doing it. Like, I think it would be exhausting,
I think that's
for
such
me.
great advice to, for people to think about. Like, if you're either starting a new blog or you've got your blog, it's been going for a while and things just aren't clicking. I think
Yeah,
it's a sign that you've got to try to experiment with some different formats.
absolutely.
Just because this is the way everybody does it doesn't mean that's the way you have to do it.
Yeah. And I really feel like, and I fall in this a lot too, like one can beat up on themselves too hard because they're not doing the one thing somebody else is so great at, and but you're
Yes.
not that person,
Yeah.
and you don't know what they had to give up to get to that point.
Right.
And I'm saying this out loud because it's also a reminder to myself. You have to just do what works for you and run
Yes.
your own course and stay in your own lane. And I think you would find much, much more success and much more joy in this business of blogging. Otherwise, you'll be so drained.
Mm, that's beautiful. So I love to ask these fun questions at the end of the interview. Are you game?
Sure.
Okay. Tell me, what is your favorite food? And I'm so curious to hear what your answer is going to be.
Other than Mediterranean or
It has
within
to be a specific
Mediterranean?
food.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, a specific dish
Yes.
or very specific dish.
Yes.
I love falafel.
I love
um,
falafel.
I'm
Yes.
absolutely addicted to falafel. I will eat that every day. So that's my thing. I know how to falafel very well. So
That would be a great t-shirt.
yeah, yeah.
Now, I was in DC once where they served falafels that had broccoli, like broccoli inside of it. I'd never seen that before, but it was delicious.
That's interesting. Well, I think,
Yeah.
you think about it, it's a vegan patty, and you could
Yes.
mix in other things, even though
Yeah.
chickpeas is your main whatever, but you
Right.
can add something else if you like.
It was bright green on the inside, so it was just beautiful. So
Yeah,
yes. Oh, falafels are so good. And of course, you have to have those with hummus, right?
that's right. Yes, we do all the falafel and all the hummus every
Every
day.
day. I could have
Yeah,
hummus every day. I love it so
yeah,
much.
yeah.
Okay. What's a favorite app on your phone?
Oh man, goodness. Okay, so does it have to be just one app?
Yes.
Okay. Gosh. Oh man, I'm looking on my phone right now. I'm like, oh, pressure. Okay, so I love iTunes. I know that that's old school, but I love iTunes
No, that's a good
because,
one.
well, I can listen to a lot of podcasts, and I kind of binge listen quite a bit.
Yes.
So that's one. And I love Instagram. I'm not sure why. I used to hate it, but I like it now.
I'm in the same boat. I used to hate it too. And then somehow it just kind of grew on me. I like it now.
I think it was one of those things when it came out, when I actually refused to do it when
Yeah.
it came out for a whole year. And
Uh-huh.
then one brand I was working with, they're like, "What? You don't have Instagram?" I'm like, "No." And they get Instagram. I'm like, "Okay." So, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, one more social media that I have to keep
Yes.
track of." I was so
Uh-huh.
resistant to it, but now I really enjoy it. I follow my
Yes.
friends and that
I
kind of
think I didn't
things.
know how to navigate it. And now I know how to navigate it better. I feel better about it.
I think they've improved it quite a bit
Yes.
since it came out. So it's got a ton more fun features. So
I
I am an
agree.
Instagram fan, I will have to admit.
Okay. Do you have any time for TV or reading at all? If you do, what's your favorite?
I have not watched a ton of TV lately, but so I when I watch, it's usually on Netflix, and I have been watching The Good Place.
Oh, that's a great show, isn't it?
It's funny and it's very
Yes.
ironic, and it's like it really has you thinking about, like, good place.
Yeah.
And the whole like point system, and am I doing good enough for the world and all that. It's pretty ironic and just funny to watch. Yeah.
Yes. I love it. Okay. So how can people find you online?
Well, I am on the mediterraneandish.com, and I am on all the social media you can think of, also under the Mediterranean Dish. That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has the in there, right? It's the Mediterranean
Yes,
dish.
it's the Mediterranean Dish. So on Instagram and everything else.
Suzy, thanks for taking the time to talk with me today. I had a really great time.
Same here. Thank you, Marley. I appreciate it.
Thanks to Suzy Karadsheh for being my guest on today's episode of the Chopped Podcast. If you want to be in the know about all things food blogging, be sure to sign up for the Chopped Academy newsletter. Go to chopped.academy and scroll down to the bottom of the page and hit subscribe. Thanks to everyone for your support of the Chopped Podcast. I've heard from so many of you lately, and I want you to know your positive feedback means so much. I love your reviews on iTunes and Stitcher, and that makes such a big impact for a podcast. It only takes a few seconds of your time and really has a big impact. Hey, why not take a picture of yourself listening to today's episode, or screenshot it and share it with me using #NamelyMarley or #ChoppedPodcast. I love hearing from you. You inspire me, and I hope today's show is helpful and inspirational to you as well. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.